So you think you know Kyoto, the city with all the serene temples and the timeless traditions? Well, in 2025, that's really only half the story. Today, we're going to peel back the layers and explore the surprising contradictions of an ancient capital that's dealing with a very, very modern identity crisis. Okay, this right here, this is the central paradox of Kyoto in 2025. On the one hand, you've got this incredible legacy of more than 1,000 years as the imperial heart of Japan. And on the other hand, you've got a modern city that's teetering right on the edge of financial collapse. So how in the world did it come to this? All right, so how does a city with such a glorious past find itself in such a tough spot today? Let's start with its very identity, which is this foundation of historical grandeur that's now clashing head-on with all the pressures of the 21st century. I mean, for a millennium, Kyoto was basically the center of the Japanese universe. And even after the capital moved to Tokyo, it was always seen as the nation's cultural soul. But now, and this is a really fascinating twist, it has officially reclaimed that title. Get this, in 2025, Japan's Agency for Cultural Affairs actually moved its headquarters right back to Kyoto, making it the nation's cultural command center once again. But this city of high culture has always had this rebellious streak. Politically, Kyoto's a traditional stronghold for progressive movements, even the Japanese Communist Party. And this independent way of thinking, well, it frequently puts the city at odds with the more conservative national government in Tokyo. That creates this constant undercurrent of tension that affects, well, pretty much everything. And this is where all those contradictions really come home to roost. So while the world sees these priceless, beautiful temples, the city government is actually drowning in debt. We're talking decades of ambitious projects, like its notoriously expensive subway system, that have pushed Kyoto to the financial brink. So now, in 2025, the mayor is having to make some really painful cuts, tightening the belt on the very city that's supposed to symbolize Japan's cultural wealth. But the contradictions don't just stop with politics and money. The city's economy, it's another fascinating paradox. We all picture Kyoto as the city of ancient arts and crafts, but it is also an absolute powerhouse of global technology. Think about it. You might go there for the 1600 temples, but you're also in the city that gave the world Mario. Yep, global giants like Nintendo, Kyocera, and Murata Manufacturing, that's a company that makes the tiny electronic bits and pieces inside your phone, they're all based here. And they exist right alongside these centuries-old crafts, like the beautiful Nishijin kimono weaving and the legendary sake brewing in the Fushimi district. And this high-tech industry isn't just a little sideshow. It is a massive force in the city's modern economy. Nintendo's influence is so huge that its new museum, which opened just outside the city in late 2024, has already become this huge economic engine for the entire region, pulling in fans and their money from all over the globe. And it's not just tech giants that are fueling the city's modern identity. Kyoto is a true college town. A full 10% of its population is university students. They're drawn to amazing schools like Kyoto University. And this constant influx of young people, of new ideas and energy, it fuels everything from the housing market to the thousands of ramen shops that keep the city buzzing. But this economic boom, especially the part that's powered by tourism, it comes with a heavy price. It creates this fundamental conflict. How do you welcome the world without destroying the very way of life that the world is coming to see in the first place? After the pandemic brought global travel to a screeching halt, the visitors are back with a vengeance. And the sheer number of tourists has created this phenomenon we call overtourism, and it is absolutely overwhelming the city's infrastructure. The buses are packed, the historic streets are just jammed, and local residents are feeling more and more pushed out. It's a full-blown crisis. And it's forced the city to take some pretty drastic action in 2025. So how is Kyoto fighting back? Well, they're trying to manage this massive flow of people with a three-pronged attack. First, they scrapped that super popular one-day bus pass to try and discourage tourists from clogging up all the local bus routes. Second, they're running special tourist express buses that go directly to the major sites. And third, they're even looking at a pretty controversial idea: charging tourists different prices than locals. You can actually feel this tension in the local dialect Kyotoben, which is famous for being really indirect. There's this well-known custom that just illustrates it perfectly. If a host offers you ochazuke, it's a simple dish of tea over rice. It's not one last act of hospitality. No. It's a very polite, unspoken signal that it's time for you to go. It's this subtle art of saying enough is enough, which is a feeling a lot of Kyoto residents now have about overtourism. And the pressure? It isn't just cultural, it's demographic. The very soul of the city's neighborhoods is at stake, and it's leading to a real fight for a future where people can actually afford to live. Okay, so here's maybe the most shocking contradiction of all. While all these tourists are flocking in, Kyoto's own population is shrinking. Young families aren't just leaving, they are fleeing the city for more affordable neighboring areas like Shiga Prefecture. So why are they leaving? It's simple economics, really. The same tourism boom that's powering the economy is also pricing out the locals. Hotels and foreign investors are buying up property, and that's causing real estate prices to just skyrocket, making it pretty much impossible for the next generation of Kyoto residents to afford a home in their own city. And this whole crisis is playing out on a stage that was set over 1,200 years ago. The city's core is this perfect grid called Go-bun-no-mi because it looks like the board for the game of Go. This ancient design, it was modeled on the Chinese capital and was supposed to be orderly and harmonious. But, well, that ancient design is just no match for modern traffic. The narrow, historic roads that were perfect for people on foot and maybe a few carriages are now the source of terrible gridlock, just choking the city center with cars and overcrowded buses. It's a design from the past that's creating a huge problem for the present. So, where does all this leave Kyoto as it tries to navigate 2025? Well, it's a city at a crossroads, facing its biggest challenges head-on and trying to write its next, very uncertain chapter. In 2025, the city is basically walking a tightrope. It has to balance its tourism economy with the well-being of its own residents. It has to solve a massive financial crisis without completely gutting public services, and it has to somehow be both a high-tech powerhouse and the guardian of Japan's ancient soul. Every single decision is an incredibly delicate balancing act. Ultimately, this story of Kyoto forces us to ask a question that really applies to historic cities everywhere. Can a city that belongs to the world also belong to the people who actually live there? Can a global treasure also be a livable home?